The stars looked different from the bridge of the horizon, Earth's military ship. Captain stood with his hands behind his back, watching the darkness of space. His crew was quiet. They had been traveling for 3 weeks, exploring a new sector that Earth had never visited before. "Captain, we have something on the scanners," said Lieutenant from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen. "It's big, really big." Walked to her side. On the screen, 7 massive ships appeared. They were unlike anything humans had ever built. The ships glowed with strange lights and had designs that seemed impossible. Each one was 3 times the size of the horizon. "Try to contact them," said calmly. Opened all communication channels. For a moment, there was only silence. Then a voice came through, speaking perfect English but with an odd tone that made it sound inhuman. "Primitive vessel, you have entered collective space. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." The crew looked at each other. The combat specialist laughed quietly. "Did they just call us primitive?" Raised his hand for silence. "This is Captain of Earth. We come in peace. We did not know this space belonged to anyone. We're explorers." "Your ignorance does not excuse your trespass," the voice replied. "The Galactic Collective has ruled this region for 10,000 years. Your world will now submit to our authority. You will hand over all weapon technology and accept our governance." The medical officer whispered from her station, "Captain, they're treating us like children." His jaw tightened. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth. He had lost friends and seen terrible things. No one spoke to him or his species like this. "We appreciate the introduction," said slowly. "But Earth doesn't submit to anyone. We govern ourselves. If you want to talk as equals, we're happy to meet. If you're demanding surrender, the answer is no." There was a long silence. Then the alien ships began to move closer. Their weapons systems activated, lighting up the darkness with red energy. "You do not understand your position," the voice said. "We are giving you a chance to survive. Our technology is thousands of years beyond yours. Your refusal is foolish." Checked her systems. "Captain, they're powering up weapons. What are your orders?" Looked at his crew. Every face showed the same thing. They were scared, but they were also angry. Humans had spent centuries fighting for freedom on their own planet. They weren't about to give it up to strangers in space. "Red alert," ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Charge all weapons." Grinned as he activated the combat systems. "Finally." The alien voice came back, now sounding surprised. "You choose destruction. Very well, your species will learn respect." The largest alien ship fired first. A beam of blue energy shot across space toward the horizon, threw the ship into a hard turn. The beam missed by meters. The crew felt the ship shake from the near miss. "Return fire," commanded. The Horizon's missiles launched. They were primitive compared to alien weapons, but humans had made them with one purpose: to hit hard. The missiles struck the alien ship's shields, creating explosions of light. "Their shields are strong," reported. "Our weapons barely damaged them." "Then we get closer," said. "Prepare boarding teams. If we can't punch through their shields, we'll go inside." His eyes went wide, then he smiled. "You want to board their ship, sir? That's crazy." "Good thing we're good at crazy," replied. The Horizon flew straight at the alien fleet. The alien ships fired again and again, but flying was wild and unpredictable. She dove, spun, and accelerated in patterns that made no sense. The aliens couldn't get a clear shot. "They're trying to understand our flight pattern," said, her hands flying over the controls. "But I'm not using a pattern." The Horizon slammed into the side of one alien ship. The shields flickered from the impact. Immediately, and his team blasted open an airlock and jumped across the gap in their space suits. On the alien bridge, Ambassador of the watched in shock. "What are they doing? No species boards ships during space combat. It's suicide." His tactical officer's face showed fear. Sir, they're inside the destroyer. They're fighting our crew. Inside the alien ship, and his team moved fast. The aliens were tall, with blue skin and 4 arms. They carried advanced weapons, but they had never fought humans before. Humans were smaller, but they were fast and aggressive. When an alien fired, humans didn't take cover. They charged forward. When humans got hit, they kept fighting. The aliens had never seen such violence up close. Fall back, fall back. An alien commander screamed as team pushed deeper into the ship. Back on the horizon, listened to the battle through the radio. Stood ready with medical supplies, her face tight with worry. Captain, we're taking their engine room, reported, breathing hard. These aliens can't handle close combat. They're not used to how we fight. Good, said, set charges and get out. 3 minutes later, and his team jumped back to the horizon. Seconds after that, the alien ship's engine exploded. The massive vessel went dark and began drifting. The other alien ships immediately pulled back. The voice came through the communication again, but now it sounded different, uncertain. What are you? What kind of species fights like this? Looked at the retreating ships. The kind that doesn't kneel. Tell your collective that Earth is not interested in joining. If you come in peace, we'll talk. If you come with threats, we'll fight. Every single time. The alien ships continued to retreat. Then they jumped away, disappearing into faster-than-light travel. The bridge was silent. Then someone started clapping. Soon the whole crew was cheering. They had faced an advanced alien civilization and survived. Came to side as she treated a few wounded crew members. Sir, they'll be back, and next time they'll bring more ships. I know, said quietly, but we showed them something today. We showed them that humans don't scare easy. Word will spread. Other species will hear about what happened here. Turned from her station. Captain, I'm picking up other signals, encrypted messages. Someone else was watching that fight. Who? Asked. I don't know yet, said, but whoever they are, they're very interested in us. Looked out at the stars again. Everything had changed today. Humanity had made first contact, and it had been violent. But they had shown the galaxy something important. Humans were wild, unpredictable, and absolutely refused to surrender their freedom. In the days that followed, stories of the encounter spread across the galactic collective. The species that ruled the galaxy spoke of humans with fear and anger, but the species that served them heard something different in the stories. They heard about beings who fought back, beings who refused to bow. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, slaves and servants began to whisper a new word: hope. 3 months had passed since the first battle. Earth had been busy. Every shipyard was working day and night. Every soldier was training. Everyone knew the aliens would return. Sat in her small office on Earth's moon base, surrounded by screens. She was an intelligence officer, and her job was to listen. She had learned to decode some of the alien transmissions. What she heard made her blood run cold. Captain needs to see this, she said to herself, saving the files. Across the moon base was training with Minu, one of their best pilots. Minu was young and fearless. He flew his fighter in ways that broke every safety rule, but he never crashed. You need to stop thinking so much, Minu said as they walked off the simulator deck. The aliens use computers to fly. We use our guts. That's why we win. We got lucky, said. Next time they'll be ready for us. Then we'll do something even crazier, Minu grinned. They entered the briefing room where was waiting, and were already there. Their chief engineer sat in the corner cleaning his hands with a rag. He always had grease on him from working on ships and weapons. Show them, said Tu. Activated a hologram. Alien text appeared, which her computer translated to English. I've been monitoring collective communications. They're debating what to do about us. Half of them want to leave us alone. The other half want to destroy Earth before we become a bigger threat. The room went quiet. His face went pale. They want to destroy our entire planet. Some of them do, continued. They're calling us feral, they're scared of us. They've never met a species that fights the way we do. Most aliens surrender when they're outnumbered. We don't. Good, said from the doorway. Let them be scared. Held up her hand. There's more. I've also been receiving secret messages. Someone is trying to contact us. Someone inside collective space. She played an audio file. A gentle, musical voice spoke in broken English. Humans of Earth, please respond. We need help. We are slaves. We heard stories of your battle. You are the first species to fight the collective in 300 years. Please help us. Leaned forward. Where are they sending from? A system called about 40 light years from here, said. But here's the interesting part. I've received similar messages from other species too. The collective isn't just an alliance. It's an empire. 3 species rule it. 4 species serve them as slaves. Looked up from his rag. So when we fought them, we weren't just fighting their military. We were fighting slave owners. Exactly, said. Stood and paced the room. This changes everything. If we help these aliens rebel, we start a war. A real war across the galaxy. We're already at war, said. They just haven't attacked yet because they're trying to decide the best way to kill us. Looked at each person in the room. This isn't a military decision alone. Earth Command needs to know about this, but I want your opinions. Do we help them? Spoke first. I became a doctor to save lives. If there are beings out there suffering as slaves and we can help them, how can we say no? Minyu nodded. Plus, if we help them fight, that's more people between us and the collective's full military. It's smart strategy. Added, I can teach them to build weapons from their own technology. If they've been working on collective ships for centuries, they know how everything works. They just need to know how to break it. Was quiet for a moment. Then she said, when I was a child, my grandfather told me stories about Korea's fight for freedom. He said the worst thing isn't being conquered. It's forgetting you were ever free. These aliens remember. They're reaching out. We have to answer. Made his decision. Send a response to the, tell them we'll help. You're coming with me. We'll take a small ship fast and quiet. You too. We'll bring supplies and start training them. Smiled. Sir, Earth Command hasn't approved this yet. Then we won't tell them until after we leave, said. Sometimes you have to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. 2 weeks later, a small human ship called the Dawn arrived at. The planet was beautiful, with purple oceans and green continents. But it was also a prison. Collective ships orbited overhead, making sure no one left. The who met them looked almost human, but with silver skin and large, dark eyes. Their leader was named. She looked at the humans with wonder and hope. You came, whispered. We did not think you would come. We keep our promises, said. They met in an underground cave system where the resistance hid. There were maybe 300 rebels. They had stolen some weapons but didn't know how to use them properly. They looked tired and scared. Walked among them examining their weapons. These are collective rifles, good quality, but you're holding them all wrong. For the next month, humans taught how to fight, not like the collective fought with formal tactics and careful strategies. They taught them to fight like humans, fast, aggressive, unpredictable. Showed them how to make bombs from mining equipment. The collective thinks you're too scared to fight back, he explained. Use that. They won't expect attacks until it's too late. You trained pilots in the simulator. Forget what they taught you about flying safely. Safe flying gets you killed in combat. You need to fly like you're crazy. At night and would talk. She told him about her people's history. They had been free once 3 centuries ago. Then the collective came and offered protection. Within a generation, protection became control. Control became slavery. My grandmother remembered freedom, said sadly. She told me stories, but I was born a slave. I never knew what it was like to choose my own path. You'll know it soon, promised. We'll make sure of it. After 2 months of training, they planned their first operation, a collective mining facility on southern continent. It was lightly guarded because the collective never expected an attack. That was their first mistake. 50 rebels and 10 humans struck at midnight. The bombs destroyed the facility's shields, led the ground assault with fighters following his lead. They moved fast, never staying in one place long enough for the defenders to aim properly. The collective guards were shocked, weren't supposed to fight. They were supposed to be obedient and fearful, but these charged forward with wild battle cries. They fought like humans. The facility fell in 3 hours. The rebels freed 200 workers and captured enough weapons to arm their entire resistance. More importantly, they proved something to themselves. They could win. News of the attack spread. Back on Earth, intercepted dozens of communications. The collective leadership was furious and confused. How had they learned to fight like this? But other transmissions were different. Secret messages from slaves, from workers, from every oppressed species in the collective. They all asked the same question. Is it true? Did the win? Recorded a message and had broadcast it across every frequency. In the video, he stood next to and her fighters. To all beings living under the collective's rule, he said, we are humans from Earth. We don't believe anyone should live as a slave. If you want to fight for your freedom, we'll teach you how. We'll fight beside you. The collective calls us wild and dangerous. They're right. And now you can be wild too. The message reached billions. The collective tried to block it, but it was too late. The fire had been lit. On the collective's capital world, Ambassador watched the message with growing horror. They're starting a rebellion, he whispered. These humans are going to tear apart everything we've built. His commander nodded grimly. Then we must destroy them, all of them, before it spreads. But it was already spreading. In the dark corners of 1,000 worlds, slaves watched the message and began to hope. They began to plan. They began to sharpen their tools into weapons. The rebellion had begun. The collective's prison planet 6 held 10,000 political prisoners. These were aliens who had spoken against the collective, who had refused orders, who had dared to dream of freedom. The prison was supposed to be impossible to escape. Thick walls, energy shields, and a full battalion of guards protected it. But the collective had never dealt with humans before. Stood on the bridge of the horizon, now leading a small fleet of human and ships. Beside him were new faces, a specialist in psychological warfare, who loved explosives a little too much, a former athlete who now taught zero-gravity combat. The prison is heavily defended, said, studying the tactical display. We can't fight our way through directly. We don't need to, said with a slight smile. I've been broadcasting messages to the guards for 2 weeks, telling them about the rebellion, telling them that they're on the losing side. Half of them are scared already. And we'll scare them more, added. His eyes lit up. I've planted charges on 3 of their supply ships. When we attack, they'll explode. The guards will think we have more ships than we actually do. The attack began at dawn. Bombs went off first, lighting up the dark sky with massive explosions. The prison guards panicked, thinking they were surrounded. While they focused on the explosions, led a team of human and fighters to land on the prison's roof. In zero gravity, moved like a dancer. He had trained his whole life in movement and balance. Now he used those skills to float through the prison's corridors, taking down guards before they could raise an alarm. The other fighters followed his lead. Inside, the prisoners heard the sounds of fighting. At first, they thought it was another punishment, but then the cell doors began opening. A prisoner, a being with rocky skin and 6 legs, stared in confusion as a human appeared before him. Who are you? They asked. Your ticket out of here, replied. Can you fight? I am old and weak, they said. Then stay behind us. We're freeing everyone today. Within 2 hours, the prison was taken. 10,000 prisoners walked free. Among them were leaders, scientists, fighters, and thinkers, people who the collective had locked away because they were dangerous to the system. One prisoner was an admiral who had refused to fire on civilian ships. He found in the prison's command center, was tall and thin, with blue skin and 3 eyes. "You are the humans," said, his voice deep and strong. "I heard stories in my cell. Other prisoners said you were teaching slaves to fight. I did not believe it." "Believe it," said, "the collective's time is ending." 3 eyes studied carefully. "I commanded 300 ships before my imprisonment. I know their tactics, their weaknesses. Let me help you." "Welcome to the rebellion," said, shaking his hand. The prison break changed everything. Now the rebellion had experienced leaders, not just angry slaves, began organizing the scattered resistance groups into a real military force. He taught them collective tactics, then showed them how humans would break those tactics. Meanwhile, Intelligence Network had grown. She now had contacts on 15 different worlds. Information flowed constantly. She knew where collective ships would be before they arrived. She knew which governors were cruel and which were weak. She knew everything. "We need to hit them everywhere at once," said during a strategy meeting. "If we attack one world at a time, they can focus their forces. But if we attack 12 worlds simultaneously, they won't know where to defend." "The wildfire protocol," said, remembering's idea from months ago. "We light so many fires they can't put them all out." They spent 3 weeks preparing. Human advisors spread across rebel worlds. They taught tactics, made weapons, and built communication networks. Engineers showed rebels how to sabotage collective equipment. One wrench in the right place could shut down an entire ship. The day of wildfire arrived. At exactly the same moment across 12 different star systems, rebellions erupted. Workers in orbital factories shut down production and took control of the stations. Farmers stopped sending food to collective cities. Led attacks on government buildings. On 11 other worlds, similar uprisings began. The collective military scrambled to respond. They sent ships but by the time they arrived, the rebels had already fortified their positions. They sent troops but the farmers had turned their agricultural equipment into weapons. Everywhere they looked, the collective faced organized resistance. Minu led air battles above 3 different worlds. His wild flying style confused enemy pilots who expected orderly combat. He would dive straight at enemy ships, forcing them to break formation. He would fly through debris fields that sensors said were impossible to navigate. His squadrons, made up of human and alien pilots, followed his lead. "They can't predict us," Minu shouted over the radio during one battle. "We don't even know what we're doing until we do it." It was chaos, beautiful, effective chaos. The collective's ruling species, held an emergency meeting. Ambassador argued for total war. "We must crush them completely. Every rebel world must be destroyed as an example." But others disagreed. "We're stretched too thin," an admiral said. "If we destroy rebel worlds, we'll turn every slave in the collective against us. We need to negotiate." "Negotiate," shouted. "With humans, with rebels, they'll see it as weakness." "They already see us as weak," the admiral replied. "They're winning." Refused to believe it. He ordered his personal fleet to attack, to make an example of the first rebel world. 50 warships jumped into orbit. Received the warning from just in time. "Incoming collective fleet. Big one, they're coming for us." Was on at the time, but he immediately ordered every available ship to. "We can't let them destroy that world," is where this all started. If it falls, the rebellion loses hope. The battle lasted 3 days. The collective fleet was powerful, but the defenders were desperate. Pilots flew their small fighters directly at massive warships, ramming them when they ran out of ammunition. Humans taught them that sometimes you trade your life to save thousands. Had prepared the planet's surface with hidden explosives. When collective troops landed, entire areas erupted. Buildings collapsed on enemy soldiers. Roads became death traps. Broadcast messages on all collective frequencies describing fictional defeats of collective forces elsewhere. It wasn't true, but the collective soldiers didn't know that. They began to doubt. Some surrendered. Some retreated to their ships. On the third day, flagship was hit by a suicide attack from a pilot. The ship didn't explode, but it was crippled. Ordered a full retreat. As the collective fleet jumped away, stood on surface, looking at the destruction. Her city was damaged and hundreds had died, but they had won. Came to stand beside her. "You paid a heavy price," he said quietly. "Freedom always has a price," replied. "My grandmother told me that. Now I understand what she meant." Across the galaxy, news of victory spread. The collective had sent their full might against one rebel world and they had been defeated. 3 more species joined the rebellion that week, then 4 more, then 6. The collective was fracturing. Some species began secretly negotiating with the rebels. Others doubled down on their oppression, which only created more rebels. In a hidden base on an asteroid gathered his core team, Minu, and they looked tired but determined. "We've started something we can't stop now," said. "The collective won't forgive this. They'll come at us with everything they have." "Good," said. "I was getting bored anyway." Who had been treating wounded for weeks with almost no sleep, shook her head. "This isn't a game. People are dying. My medical stations are overflowing." "Which is why we need to end this," said. "Not just win battles, but finish the war. We need to strike at the heart of the collective." Prime said, entering the room. The Admiral had become their strategic advisor. "The collective's capital world. If we can take it, the war ends." Everyone looked at each other. Attacking the capital seemed impossible. It would be the most heavily defended place in the galaxy. But humans had made a reputation for doing impossible things. "Then that's what we do," said. "We plan the impossible, we take Prime, and we show the galaxy that no empire lasts forever." Outside the asteroid base, 100 ships waited. Human vessels, fighters, cruisers, transports converted into warships. An alliance of the oppressed, led by the wildest warriors the galaxy had ever seen. The final battle was coming. The collective's response came faster than anyone expected. 300 warships jumped into the rebel-controlled system without warning. They didn't bother with communication. They simply started firing. The rebel fleet in orbit was outnumbered 5-1. Wasn't there. He was 3 systems away with the main fleet. By the time the distress call reached him, the battle had already been raging for an hour. "Full speed too," ordered immediately. "Send word to every rebel ship. We need reinforcements now." But even at maximum speed, they were 6 hours away. 6 hours where their friends were fighting and dying alone. On the orbital station, worked desperately to save wounded soldiers. Her medical bay was overflowing. Injured humans and filled every bed and covered the floors. The station shook constantly from weapons fire. "We're losing," a nurse told her, tears streaming down her face. "The fleet can't hold much longer." Looked at the wounded around her. She had been working for 18 hours straight. Her hands shook from exhaustion, but she couldn't stop. Every life mattered. "Then we work faster," said. "No one dies in my medical bay today, not one person." In space, Minu led his fighter squadron in a desperate defense. They were outnumbered and running low on ammunition, but they didn't retreat. "Listen up," Minu shouted over the radio. "We just need to survive 6 more hours. Captain is coming, so we fight. We dodge, we survive. No heroic sacrifices today, understood?" But even as he said it, a collective cruiser targeted the medical station. If that ship landed a direct hit, everyone was trying to save would die. "No," Minu whispered. He turned his fighter toward the cruiser. "Everyone else defend the station. I've got an idea." "Minu, what are you doing?" Another pilot called. Something stupid, Minyu replied. Something really, really stupid. He flew directly at the collective cruiser, weaving through defensive fire. His ship took several hits, alarms screaming. He could eject, but he didn't. Instead, he armed every missile he had left and kept accelerating. The cruiser's captain saw what was happening and tried to turn away. Too late. Minyu's fighter, loaded with explosives, crashed into the cruiser's engine section. The explosion was massive. Both ships were destroyed. On the station, felt the impact. She looked out the window and saw the fireball. She knew immediately what had happened. No, she whispered, not Minyu. 5 hours later, fleet arrived. The collective ships, surprised by the reinforcements, began to retreat. The battle was won, but the cost had been terrible. 40 rebel ships were destroyed. Thousands were dead or wounded. Found in the medical bay. She was still working, still saving lives, but her face was empty of emotion. He knew that look. He had seen it on soldiers who had reached their breaking point. He saved us, said without looking up. Minyu saved the medical station, saved all these people, but I couldn't save him. Put his hand on her shoulder. You can't save everyone, no one can. Then what's the point? She asked, finally looking at him. What's the point of all this death? We're fighting for freedom, but how much does freedom cost? How many more friends do we lose? Had no answer. He asked himself the same question every day. That night called a meeting of all rebel leaders. The mood was dark. Everyone had heard about the battle everyone knew about Minyu. The rebellion that had seemed unstoppable was now facing the reality of war. We can't win, a leader said bluntly. The collective is too strong. We should negotiate for better treatment instead of independence. Several others nodded. The fire that had burned so bright was flickering. Stood slowly, he looked at each person in the room. I understand your fear, he said. I feel it too. I lost a friend today, a pilot who was like a brother to me, and I've lost others, we all have. He walked to the center of the room. You want to negotiate? Fine. The collective will give you slightly bigger cells, slightly better food. They'll call it freedom, but you'll still be slaves. Your children will still be slaves. Is that what Minyu died for? Then what do we do? Asked. How do we fight when we're losing? His voice grew stronger. We're not fighting to win tomorrow. We're fighting so our children never have to. Yes, we're losing people. But every battle we win, every ship we destroy, every day we stay free, we prove something important. We prove that the collective can be beaten. He looked directly at the leader. You want to know the secret of humanity, why we never give up? It's because we have this crazy, irrational hope. Even when everything says we should quit, we don't. We can't. It's not in our nature. And now you have that same hope. That's what scares the collective more than our weapons. The room was silent. Then the Admiral stood. The human is right. We knew this would be hard. We knew people would die. But we started this path. We have to finish it. Slowly others stood. The fire was rekindled, not burning as bright as before, but burning steadily. Over the next weeks, worked tirelessly on a new project. He had captured collective technology and was combining it with human engineering. The result was a new type of weapon system. It's not elegant, explained Tu, showing him the prototype. But it's powerful. We can put these on smaller ships and give them the firepower of cruisers. It evens the odds. How many can you make? Asked. Give me 2 months and unlimited resources. I can outfit our entire fleet, said, then grinned. Or I could do it in 3 weeks if you don't care about safety regulations. 3 weeks, said immediately. We don't have 2 months. Meanwhile, was intercepting increasingly desperate collective communications. Their alliance is cracking, she reported. They are questioning their loyalty. Some generals are secretly talking to our people. Can we use that? Asked. Already am, said with a smile. I've been feeding them information that makes them distrust each other. They think they are planning to betray them. To think they are negotiating with us. It's beautiful chaos. Laughed, you're as good at psychological warfare as I am. I learned from the best, replied. The rebel fleet planned their most daring operation yet. A collective admiral named Hen commanded a major battle group that had destroyed several rebel positions. He was smart, ruthless, and effective. Removing him would cripple collective military operations. But Hen protected himself well. His flagship traveled with 50 escort ships. Direct assault would be suicide. They needed something else. I'll do it, said during planning. Give me 10 people and a stealth ship. We'll board his flagship and take him out. It's a suicide mission, said. His security is everywhere. Shrugged, then I guess we better not get caught. Against all advice, approved the mission. Selected his team carefully. Humans and aliens who were the best fighters in the rebellion. They loaded into a small ship with stealth technology and set course for Hen's position. The infiltration took 3 days. They followed the collective fleet quietly, avoiding all sensors. Finally, when the fleet stopped to refuel, his team made their move. They attached to the flagship's hull like a parasite, cut through in a maintenance section, moved through the ship with perfect silence. Hen was in his ready room, planning the destruction of another rebel world. He never heard them enter. His team was that good. Admiral Hen said quietly. The admiral spun around, reaching for his weapon. Too slow. Already had a gun pointed at him. You're the one they call the butcher of, continued. You killed civilians, children. Hen smiled coldly. They were rebels, all of them. Not anymore, said. Then he pulled the trigger. The team escaped the same way they entered. By the time the collective discovered their admiral was dead, the stealth ship was long gone. News of Hen's assassination spread through both sides. The rebels cheered. The collective military fell into confusion. Without their best admiral, several operations were canceled or delayed. More importantly, 3 collective species approached the rebellion with offers to defect. They saw which way the wind was blowing. The collective's dominance was ending. Stood on the bridge of the horizon, looking at star maps with. They now controlled or influenced 30 star systems. The collective still controlled hundreds, but momentum had shifted. Prime said, pointing to the collective capital on the map. It's time. We're as strong as we'll ever be. If we wait longer, they'll adapt to our tactics. Nodded, gather all fleet commanders. Tell them to prepare for the final battle. We're going to end this war. Across rebel space, ships began to gather. The largest fleet ever assembled by free peoples. Hundreds of vessels from dozens of species, all united by one idea, freedom. In her medical ship, prepared for the casualties she knew would come. In his workshop, loaded the last weapons onto fighter craft. Sent final intelligence reports. Prepared psychological warfare broadcasts. Armed enough explosives to level a city. Drilled ground troops for urban combat. And on every ship, human and alien crews prepared for the battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. Recorded one final message to Earth. If you're seeing this, we're either victorious or dead. Either way, know that humanity changed everything. We showed the galaxy what freedom looks like. No matter what happens at Prime, that will never be forgotten. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading toward the capital world of an empire. Heading toward their destiny. Prime was the most beautiful world had ever seen. 3 moons hung in the sky above cities of crystal and metal. Rivers of pure blue water wound through forests with silver leaves. This was the heart of the collective, where the ruling species had lived in luxury for 10,000 years while others served them. It was also defended by 400 warships. The rebel fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. 280 ships. Outnumbered but not outmatched in spirit. Every crew member knew this was the final battle. Win or lose, the war would end here. All ships hold formation, ordered. Wait for my signal. studied her tactical display. The collective fleet is moving to intercept. They're following their standard defensive pattern. Good, said. Are your people ready? On a cruiser, Admiral smiled. We've been waiting for this moment for 3 centuries. We're ready. The two fleets approached each other slowly. This wasn't like previous battles where ships darted and weaved. This was going to be a massive, brutal clash. The kind of battle where the victor wasn't who was, but who could endure the most. His voice came through communication. Captain, I'm detecting a lot of communication between collective ships. They're arguing about something. Keep monitoring, replied. Start your broadcast. On every frequency, his message played. Not to the collective leaders, but to the common soldiers and crews. You're fighting for masters who see you as tools. We're fighting for freedom. You can surrender now, or you can die for people who would never die for you. Choose wisely. Several collective ships immediately powered down their weapons and moved away from the formation. Not many, but enough to create confusion. Now commanded. The rebel fleet charged forward. Its weapons fired from every ship, turning the darkness of space into a light show of destruction. Collective shields flickered and failed under the assault. But the collective returned fire with overwhelming force. Dozens of rebel ships were hit in the first minutes. The battle became chaos. Inside the command center on Prime, Ambassador watched the battle with growing fear. How are they this strong? They're just rebels. A military officer replied grimly, they've been learning, adapting. Every battle made them better, and they have human advisors. Those creatures fight like demons. Then kill the humans first, ordered. Target any ship with human life signs. In space, ship was immediately targeted by 3 collective cruisers. Alarms screamed as weapons fire hammered their shields. We've got company, said calmly, even as the ship shook violently. I'm going to try something crazy. Today, what else is new? Replied with a slight smile. Flew the horizon directly toward a massive collective battleship, then at the last second dove underneath it. The 3 pursuing cruisers couldn't turn fast enough. They crashed into their own battleship, creating a massive explosion. Told you I'd try something crazy, said. But across the battlefield, things weren't going as well. The collective's numbers were telling. For every one of their ships destroyed, 2 rebel vessels fell. This medical ship was overwhelmed with wounded. She moved between patients like a ghost, working on automatic. Her mind couldn't process the scale of death and injury anymore. She just worked. A young fighter was brought in, badly burned. Started treatment immediately, but she could see the injury was too severe. Am I dying? The fighter asked quietly. Couldn't lie, yes. The fighter nodded. That's okay, we're winning, right? This means something. It means everything, whispered, holding the fighter's hand as life faded away. In the fleet, led boarding actions on disabled collective ships. His teams moved through corridors with practiced efficiency, securing ships and capturing crew, but even was getting tired. He had been fighting for 6 hours straight. How much longer? A human soldier asked him, bleeding from a wound on his arm. Until it's over, replied, one way or another. Made a decision. Take us into the atmosphere. We're landing ground forces. Sir, the orbital defenses are busy with the space battle, interrupted. We land troops, take their capital city, force their surrender. It's the only way. His voice came through. I'll provide cover, get your people down safely. 100 transport ships broke from the main battle and dove toward Prime. Defensive batteries fired, destroying several transports, but most made it through. Led the first wave personally, and were with him. Thousands of soldiers followed, humans all landing on the collective's capital. The city was in chaos. Civilians ran for shelter. Collective defense forces tried to organize, but they were trained for ceremonial duty, not real combat. They had never expected anyone to reach their capital world. Urban combat training proved essential. His teams moved through the city using buildings for cover, avoiding open areas where they could be targeted from above. They didn't destroy the city. They captured it block by block. Explosives took down command centers and communication hubs. "I love this job," she said cheerfully after collapsing a bridge that was bringing in collective reinforcements. Broadcast continuous messages to the civilian population. "Stay in your homes. We're not here to hurt you. We're here to free you from the people who enslaved others in your name." After 12 hours of fighting, forces reached the collective's government center, a massive building of white stone and crystal at the city's heart. Inside, the ruling council waited. Exhausted and covered in dirt, entered the council chamber with his team. Ambassador stood defiantly with the other collective leaders. "You've won nothing," said. "Even if you take this world, there are hundreds of others. The collective will never surrender." Was too tired for speeches. "Your fleet in orbit is destroyed. Your city is captured. Your empire is falling apart. You've already lost. The only question is how many more people die before you accept it." A counselor stepped forward. "What do you want, terms?" "Unconditional surrender," said, entering the chamber. "Freedom for all enslaved species, trials for war criminals, and a new government representing all peoples equally." "Impossible," spat. "We will never agree to this." At that moment the building shook. His voice came through the communication. "Captain, the collective is trying to activate a planetary self-destruct system. They'd rather destroy their own capital than surrender." His eyes went wide. "Can you stop it?" "Working on it," replied. In a secure facility beneath the city, worked with technicians who had been slaves in collective systems their whole lives. They knew every circuit, every. Together, they raced against the countdown. 30 seconds, a tech said, her hands shaking as she worked. "I've got this," muttered, cutting wires and rerouting power. Come on, come on." 10 seconds. Made one final connection. The countdown stopped with 3 seconds remaining. He let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "Disarmed, we're safe." In the council chamber received the news. He turned to. "Your last option is gone. Surrender now or we'll drag you out and let the people you oppressed decide your fate." Looked around at his fellow counselors. One by one, they lowered their heads in defeat. The collective, which had ruled for 10,000 years, was finished. The surrender was formalized within hours. Across the galaxy, collective forces laid down their weapons. Some fought to the bitter end, but most accepted the new reality. The trials lasted 6 months. War criminals were punished, but insisted on fairness. "We're not here for revenge," he told the trial organizers. "We're here for justice. There's a difference." A new galactic council was formed. Representatives from every species, chosen by their people. Decisions would be made by consensus, not by force. At the first council meeting, delegates from hundreds of worlds gathered. They offered leadership of the new government. He refused. "We didn't fight to rule," said firmly. "We fought so no one would rule over others. Earth will help protect the peace, but we won't govern you. That's your right and responsibility." Now representing on the council, smiled at him. "You really are the wildest warriors. Most conquerors would have seized power." "We're not conquerors," replied. "We're just people who believe in freedom." 1 year after the Battle of Prime, returned to the capital city. It had been rebuilt, more beautiful than before. Children of different species played together in parks. Former slaves walked as free people. He visited a memorial for the fallen. Minu's name was there, along with thousands of others who had died for freedom. Placed a flower at the memorial. "We did it," he whispered. "We showed them what we're capable of." Found him there. She looked healthier now, though her eyes still carried the weight of all the lives she couldn't save. "Do you think it was worth it?" she asked. "All those lives?" Was quiet for a moment. I think the people who died would say yes. They died so others could be free. That means something. I suppose, said. I just wish we could have saved more. We saved billions, reminded her gently. Because of you, because of all of us, entire species live in freedom now. That's not nothing. Later stood on a balcony overlooking the city. A elder, someone who had lived as a slave for 70 years, approached him. I have a question, the elder said. What made humans so different from other species? Why were you the ones to fight? Thought about his answer carefully. I think it's because we've always been wild. On Earth, we fought for centuries to be free. We never had anyone to give us freedom. We had to take it ourselves. When we met the collective, we saw beings who had forgotten how to fight for themselves. We just reminded them. You did more than remind us, the elder said. You showed us that freedom is possible. That's a gift we can never repay. You already have, said. You fought for yourselves. That's all we ever wanted. As the sun set on Prime, casting the city in golden light, watched children playing. Human children, children, children all together. No masters, no slaves, just people. He thought about all the friends he had lost. Minu's wild grin, the soldiers who never came home, the medics who worked until they collapsed, the engineers who built weapons from scraps, the pilots who flew into impossible odds. They had been called the wildest warriors in history, and maybe they were, but knew the truth. They weren't wild because they loved to fight. They were wild because they refused to accept a galaxy where some beings were free and others were not. That wildness, that refusal to accept injustice, had changed everything. And it would never be tamed.